Hi, welcome to Quick Business Tips. I'm Jennifer Swineford, founder of Limitless Impact Agency, and this is the podcast for service-based business owners who want to grow their business without losing the heart behind it. Every week, I'm bringing you real practical strategies on marketing, sales, and customer experience. No fluff, no hustle culture nonsense, just what works. So let's get into it. Let me ask you a question. If I told you that your perfect customer was a married homeowner between the ages of 35 and 55 with a household income over 150,000, would that information help you market your business? What I'm really asking is, would that information allow you to sit down, write a social media post, update your website, and think to yourself, 35 to 55, married, six figures. And all of that helps you figure out what to say, what photos to use, what stories to tell? I'm guessing the answer is probably not. And that's the problem with how most businesses go about marketing to their perfect client. They figure out the demographics and then they stop. They never get to the thing that drives the customer to pick up the phone and give you a call or push the buy button. So today we're going to go beyond demographics into psychographics. These are the fears, the dreams, the specific emotional triggers that make your perfect client stop scrolling social media and start paying attention to what you have to say. I'm going to share a story about a realtor I work with whose marketing completely changed. Not because we increased their budget, changed the platform, or even changed the strategy they were using. Simply because we got specific about who they were talking to. And I'm going to tell you right now, the photos that this realtor ended up using on social media to make people stop scrolling, they weren't photos of houses or happy families at the closing table. So let's start with the basics, because I think this is one of the most underused concepts in marketing today. Demographics are the service details. These are your age, income, zip code, marital status, homeowner, renter, on and on. They tell you who the client is. And psychographics are that layer underneath. It's what the person wakes up at 2 a.m. worried about. What they want their home, their business, or their life to feel like. And what made them not hire someone in the past to fix these problems. It's also what would make them refer you to every person that they know. Now, here's why this matters so much for service-based businesses specifically. People don't hire a contractor because they need a contractor. They hire a contractor because they want their house to feel like a home that they've been dreaming of. They hire a contractor because they're embarrassed to have people over when their kitchen is desperately needing an update. And they hire a contractor because their kids are getting older. They need more space before the kids grow up and move away. That decision to hire you as a service business is almost always emotional first and logical second. The emotion happens before they do a Google search, before they request a quote, before they get on the phone. And if your marketing is only speaking to the logical side, saying stuff like, we do quality work, we're licensed and insured, we've been in business since 2010, those words are not triggering a single emotion. So let me tell you about this realtor. When we first started working together, their marketing strategy was pretty straightforward. They told me their target audience was anyone looking to buy or sell a home in the area that they served. And honestly, they felt like that was pretty niche down. They weren't trying to go national. They weren't even trying to cover the whole area that they were licensed to cover. They had a specific set of zip codes. They had their years of experience and training, and they had spectacular reviews. But their marketing felt like it could have been any other realtor. They were beautifully curated photos of living rooms, kitchens, exteriors, stats about the number of homes sold, messages about how they make the process easy or stress-free, very generic, very polished, and completely invisible. So we sat down and I started asking some different questions. Not who do you want to sell homes to, but who do you absolutely love working for? Who are the clients that you want to spend time with after you've finished the closing table? And who refers business to you without a second thought? The answer that kept coming up for them was families. But when we really dug deeper, things got interesting. They were talking about married couples with young kids who had outgrown their starter home. They needed more space, not necessarily more bedrooms. They wanted a backyard or a basement where the kids could play, a kitchen big enough to entertain, and a neighborhood with other families. A house that could hold the life they were building together. And that's when we really had something to work with. We weren't talking to home buyers in the greater Minneapolis area anymore. We were talking to a mom who feels a little guilty, maybe envious, when the kids want to go spend time at another kid's house. A dad who wants to host the neighborhood barbecue, but doesn't have the space to do it. Or a couple who's been saying, next year we'll find the house. But they've been saying it for 3 years in a row, and now they're finally ready. So once we knew who we were talking to, everything got easier. Room to grow hits this target audience completely differently than square footage. Space for your family brings up an emotion that open floor plan just doesn't do. So we knew what fears we had to address. There's the fear of disrupting the kids during the school year, fear of selling their current home before finding the one that they're going to replace it with, fear that the market is too competitive and they'll lose out on offers. And this is the part we love. I love. We knew what photos would make them stop scrolling on social. The photos that would make them stop scrolling are not perfectly staged living rooms, not aerial shots of a neighborhood, and certainly not a couple standing in front of a sold sign. The photos that would make them stop scrolling are photos of kids playing in the backyard, a family around a dining table that doesn't feel too small, and a mudroom with 4 pairs of boots lined up by the door. Because here's the reality. This perfect client, this family, they're not shopping for a house. They're shopping for a feeling. And when your marketing starts speaking to that feeling instead of feeling like a transaction, everything changes. So how do you do this for your business? I have a 4-step framework that I use with every client I work with. These are the 4 steps to your ideal client. Now, first, we do have to talk about demographics, age range, location, income level, family status, whatever is relevant to the specific service that you are offering. This is where you start, but this is never where you stop. Step number 2 is what's happening in their life. Because your perfect customer is a human being. And they're going through a specific season, or they have a specific problem, and what's happening in their life is what's bringing them to you at this exact moment. Now, for the realtor in our example, the kids were growing up. The house was feeling just too small, and they've been saying maybe next year for 3 years in a row. But then something finally changes. For a contractor, it might be they bought a fixer-upper and they're feeling overwhelmed, or they have an aging parent who's moving in with them. Maybe they've lived in the same house for several years and they're finally ready to turn it into their dream home. So you need to figure out what specific situation makes someone pick up the phone and call you, or open up their browser and start asking Google or ChatGPT. Now, step 3 is the emotion. So what are they feeling in this situation? Now, this is where most of my clients get pretty quiet. But this is the most important layer. You need to figure out what your customer is afraid of. What do they want? Not on a practical level, but on an emotional level. And once you solve the problem that they are suffering from, what does that success look like for them? What have they not really ever said out loud to anyone else? These are the emotions that you can talk to. In the example that we're using today, the family wanted more space. Now that's practical. So the layer underneath that is they wanted the kids to bring their friends over to their house. They wanted to be the house that all the kids in the neighborhood hung out at. That's the emotion. And that's where we needed our marketing to speak to. The fourth step is the trigger. What is going to make them really take action? Because people sit with problems for a long time before they do anything about it. Then something shifts. Maybe they have a conversation, an event, a milestone, a moment of frustration that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. And when you know what the trigger is for your perfect customer and you speak to it in your marketing, that's when the marketing really hits home for them. And that's when you get to stop chasing clients and they start finding you themselves. So here's my challenge for you this week. Think about 5 to 10 of your absolutely best clients. These are not your biggest projects or your most revenue that you've generated from customers. These are the best relationships. The clients that you would clone and work with over and over and over again. Take each of those clients individually and work through all 4 steps. The situation, their emotion, the trigger, and the service demographics, because all 4 are important. Once you have those figured out, you start looking for patterns. And if you dig deep and you really know your customer, and guys, it's okay to just hit them up and ask them, like, where were you when you started working with me? What were you feeling? What problem were you trying to solve? People want to help you grow your business. When you do this and do it well, you will start to see repetition. You will see the same situation, the same emotion, the same trigger that starts showing up. When you have that pattern figured out, that is your ideal customer. It's not a demographic spreadsheet. That's an emotional human being who needs exactly what you're offering and is actively looking for someone who understands them. And once you're super clear on that, everything else in your marketing gets easier. You know what to write, you know what photos to use, you know what stories to tell. And here's what's amazing. When your marketing speaks to the right person, You also stop attracting the wrong ones. You know what I'm talking about. The clients who only care about getting the lowest price, the ones who second guess everything, and the clients who completely emotionally drain you. Because when you're clear about who you serve best, you also get clear about who you really don't want to work with. And knowing that is one of the best feelings that you can have in business. I want to share with you something that I keep seeing on repeat. When you get clear about who you're meant to serve, not just on paper, but you really let it sit with you emotionally and situationally, this stops feeling like a marketing exercise and your business starts feeling like your purpose. Because I know that you don't just have a service to sell. You have a specific type of person that you are uniquely gifted to help. And getting clear on who that is isn't just good business strategy. It's good stewardship of the gifts and experiences that you've been given. The realtor from our example didn't just start selling more homes when he got real specific on his marketing. He started helping families walk through one of the biggest decisions of their lives and doing it in a way that felt aligned with why he got into real estate in the first place. That kind of alignment changes everything about how you show up in your business. And when you show up as your best self every day, people feel it and the sales start coming in. Now, if you would like help working through the 4 steps that we discussed in your own business, because you want help identifying who your perfect customer is and building a marketing strategy that speaks to them on a human level, that's exactly what I do. I would love for you to schedule a free strategy session with me using the link in the show notes or going directly to limitlessimpactagency.com. And if someone in your world is wasting money on marketing that just isn't working, do them a favor and send them this episode. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. If something landed for you today, I would be so appreciative if you'd share this episode with one person in your world who needs to hear it, because that's how this show will grow. And I am so grateful for every single share that is made. If you're ready to take what you learned today and put it into work to grow your business, I would absolutely love to talk to you. You can use the link in the show notes or visit limitlessimpactagency.com to schedule your free strategy session. We'll figure out exactly where you need to focus first, but until next week, go do something amazing.